Narcan saves lives. Narcan has saved my own life.
Everyone should be carrying Narcan. It reverses an opioid overdose.
It's easy to get. It's almost at any pharmacy. You don't have to be 18, and you don't need a prescription.
It is saving lives every single day.
Want your boss to put some real action behind the rhetoric when they talk about making your workplace more inclusive? Find out how to hold their feet to the fire and demand diversity on the Diversity Dude podcast.
Hello there, and welcome back to the Diversity Dude podcast. I'm your host, Lambert Fisher, marriage and family therapist, award-winning author, and national speaker on the topic of multicultural awareness and diversity. And for those of you who are interested in even more positive and encouraging tips and strategies beyond what I share in podcasts like this, then feel free to check out my award-winning book, Diversity in Clinical Practice, nationally recognized for the unique way in which it addresses the often difficult topic of multicultural awareness and diversity. Designed for more than just therapists, if you're a helping professional in any way, diversity in clinical practice can help you meet the greatest variety of cultural needs possible for those whom you serve. And it's available in paper and audiobook versions for your convenience. And if you haven't heard it yet, I invite you to visit TED.com and check out my talk called What to Do When You Offend Someone, where I offer a positive and practical perspective on how to navigate unintentional offenses in daily life. To date, it's been viewed over 500,000 times. Check it out for yourself, and if you're encouraged by it as well, share it with a friend. And whether it be through my one-on-one relationship building efforts as a therapist or my informing and empowering efforts as an author and speaker, know that my personal mission is to do my part to improve the world one strengthened relationship at a time. So, today I want to share with you an encouraging perspective on resisting cultural guilt by association. In my efforts to help improve cross cultural interactions in both personal and professional relationships, I'm continually reminded that there are many people who have a genuine desire to at least treat each other with respect, and still many more who desire to go above and beyond and intentionally convey genuine value for everyone, no matter their similar or different cultural identities. And yet, despite this awesome reality, I can also acknowledge and confirm that there are many who have no desire to do so. They have a certain view of who's right and who's the best kind of person, and that's usually the people who are like them in one or many ways, and everybody else is less than. This sentiment, whether conveyed softly or loudly, verbally or behaviorally, personally or professionally, can understandably rub many people the wrong way if they feel that they are being seen or treated in ways that are not representative of who they really are and the value they believe they possess, not over someone else, but alongside of everyone else. Now, when these contrasting perspectives clash, there is a potential for fireworks. However, for today, I want to put a spotlight on those who might feel caught in the crossfire of those fireworks, those who might be deemed guilty by association. When I have the pleasure of helping train and equip professionals in various environments, one of the most common questions I receive is how can I avoid people from cultures different than mine, assuming that I'm like the worst version of people from my own culture group, who I don't even share those traits with, just because I look like them in some way or another? And while my answer to this question varies depending on the circumstances and the needs of the group I'm speaking to, there are some common considerations that permeate them all. The first consideration is this: before you defend yourself, take a moment to validate the experience motivating their concern. What do I mean? Well, while I know it's common and often instinctual to instantly defend yourself from seemingly unwarranted accusations that come out of nowhere, no one wants to be misrepresented in any way. Unfortunately, responding to expressions of feeling with defensiveness tends to prove to the other person that they were right to protect themselves from you, because clearly your priority is explaining why you're right and why they're wrong. Thus, their experience was wrong and invalid and ultimately not likely to change. As a marriage and family therapist, I see this play out on a weekly basis, where one partner expresses feeling hurt by the other partner in some way by something that they said or did, and the partner on the receiving end of that accusation instantly explains why what they said or what they did was not as wrong as it seems. The only problem was they don't feel hurt either, because all the initial partner heard was, I only hurt you because you did something first. And then back and forth, the cycle of misunderstanding and hurt continues. What changes this cycle is when one person takes the time to say, I'm sorry that something I said made you feel hurt. Though that wasn't how I really felt, I can see how it sounded that way. and looked that way and felt that way. If you're open to it, I'd love to try to clarify as a whole that you can see how I really feel about you. And that's what needs to happen in moments of cultural offense and hurt. The challenge is to acknowledge the temptation to instantly defend yourself, but hold off a bit, just for a bit, not squash it, just delay it until you've opened the ears of the other party to be able to hear what you have to say by first hearing them, their hurtful experiences, their fears of repeated hurt, and validate the legitimacy of their concern. You could even say something like, I can see how you would be understandably worried that I might think or feel this or that about you because everyone else you've encountered who looks like me did think or feel those things. Fortunately, I'm happy to reassure you that just because I share that one trait with that group doesn't mean I share all of them, which actually leads to consideration number two. While it's good to tell someone who you are not, it's better to tell them who you are. One thing I hear a lot is, I'm not like those people, or I would never do those things, or I would never say, do, or think those things. And those things are usually a multitude of racist, sexist, ageist, or many other isms that offend people by attempting to make them feel less than in some way for who they are. Interestingly, these assertions are not as impactful as are often hoped. Not because, see, they'll never be satisfied, but because saying what you are not doesn't actually make clear who you are. Sticking with my marriage counseling experience for a moment, a husband asserting to his wife that he would never cheat on her, physically abuse her, or abandon her are all great things to convey. For the contrary is unacceptable. However, not doing these particular things is not the criteria for a person being proud to call you her husband. No, that requires going beyond not being a bad husband, but learning how to be a good husband, which often means different things to different households. But a common factor is learning both the fears and aversions to avoid, as well as the needs and desires of the person who you've committed your life to, and making intentional efforts to make their life better because you're in it. Culturally, it's good to verbally reassure people of who and what you are not. But in all fairness, that leaves a lot of room for interpretation for what they can actually look forward to and expect from future interactions with you, which, unless you make clear and fill in those blanks by who you really are, this interpretation will often be influenced by the behaviors of others that preceded you, which is a good motivation when hearing consideration number three. Make clear who you are in action. It's one thing to say who you are, it's another thing to show who you are. You may say, I don't view you as less than because of your racial or ethnic background, but in what ways can they look forward to seeing you behaviorally show your value for everyone equally, no matter their cultural or racial or ethnic background? You see, it's not about proving yourself with grand gestures, but by authentically incorporating your values into your daily actions. Again, when I encounter husbands who discover their partners are cautious of them because of the hurtful actions of their past partners, while saying they won't hurt them like they've been hurt in the past is good, showing in action the intentional efforts they'll make in order to create a sense of love and safety go a long way. And while it may sound good on paper to make one big gesture, attempting to eliminate all concerns once and for all, this often fails to meet the mark. Not because the gesture was wrong, but because the size of the gesture is less important than the sustainability and the care and the patience that motivated it. Similarly, I encourage you to resist the temptation to try to make some big, grand cultural gesture to prove that you're not what someone else might think or fear you are based on your cultural associations. Instead, balance your words and your actions in ways that convey authenticity as well as sustainability, something that they can cautiously hear now and slowly over time begin to trust more and more. With all this in mind, my hope for you is that you will be able to see and acknowledge the legitimacy of people's guilt by association concerns based on legitimate feelings, regardless of the factual accuracy that you may see. That you would learn to give others the verbal reassurance that you have less desire to defend yourself and more of a desire to reassure others that you are not the threat that they fear that you are, and that you are more than just talk. But with patience and genuine care, your actions will show that your words and feelings were true all along. And by doing so, cultural guilt by association doesn't have to be something to fear or defend against. Instead, it can be something that becomes less and less necessary to hold on to in people's personal and professional relationships with you. And with that, I'll say thanks again for listening to today's Diversity Dude podcast. If you have any pressing diversity related questions that you'd like me to address on an upcoming podcast, or your organization is in need of a shame free and empowering guest speaker or training on this often sensitive topic, then feel free to reach out to me directly at www.diversitymadesimple.com. And if you know anyone else who can benefit from a positive and encouraging perspective on this often difficult topic of diversity, feel free to send them a link to this podcast so they can be encouraged as well. Or share with them my award-winning book, Diversity in Clinical Practice, available at Amazon.com. And don't forget to visit TED.com and check out my talk called What to Do When You Offend Someone. I hope it inspires you and that you can share it with someone else so they can be inspired as well. And as usual, I look forward to addressing as many topics as possible in future podcasts to help you improve as many relationships as possible at work, at home, and in your community. And as always, remember this: you don't need to know everything about everyone in order to have a positive impact on someone. Thank you all for tuning in, and have a great day.
Tune in each week and find out how to demand and implement diversity at your job. To hear more, check out previous Diversity Dude shows on ShalettaMakesMeLaugh.com.
You know Shaletta makes you laugh, but did you know Shaletta Brundage can also make you think and boost your business? Media personality, activist, and comedian Shaletta Brundage founded Shaletta Makes Me Laugh to celebrate and share the best of Black culture. It's a podcasting platform. You can download 10 weekly podcasts hosted by African American subject experts at ShalettaMakesMeLaugh.com or wherever you find your favorite podcasts. ShalettaMakesMeLaugh.com is also a production house, creating broadcast quality commercial content. And Shaletta and her team of storytellers create powerful promotional campaigns to get businesses the brand awareness they're looking for. Some of Minnesota's top businesses trust Shaletta, and you can too. Get out the word about your events and products and get in front of communities of color with ShalettaMakesMeLaugh.com. She's got the power to help your business.
What's up, everyone? It's Shaletta. I'm here getting a phone for one of my newly minted teenagers with Xfinity Mobile. They've got great options, affordable plans, and solid coverage that works for our whole family. With Xfinity Mobile, my daughter can stay connected with me wherever she goes. And did you know when you sign up, you can get an extra phone line free for a full year? Switch to Xfinity Mobile today for more savings, more smiles, and more ways to stay connected.